Hello, my name's John Thorne from Thorny Motorsport, and this is our end of the year, beginning of the year review on McLaren sales. Now, last year I did this. I was talking about what we sold, didn't sell, various ideas and prices, how the market's changed. And this year, if I just did the video on that, it'd be quite a dull video because, frankly, the majority of McLaren models actually haven't moved much in the course of the last 12 months or so in terms of valuations. There are a couple of notable exceptions, but generally speaking, if I just did a video about prices, it would be a video saying sod all, so it's kind of pointless. To give a prices that, we have now sold as a business on sale or return only over 211 McLarens in the last 3 years. So I think that gives us pretty good insight in terms of where the valuations are. And again, my apologies for international viewers. This is the UK market. I know 3/5 of bugger all about how much your car is worth in California, I'm sad to say. However, we do have dealers around the world and they are getting more involved in the car sales to be helpful. But for me, NAFL can't help. But the UK market, we're pretty good because we sell more McLarens than everybody else does as an individual. Right. So if it's going to be a boring video about prices, there are a couple of notable changes that I think are worth mentioning. One is the 720, both coupe and spider form, where the beginning of last year, so early in 2025, they came down in price quite aggressively, partly because there were a few cars out there which were basically dog shit, and that value of that car dragged the rest of the cars down. There was one car I saw for sale where the door wouldn't shut. You know, how you sell a car that can't close the door kind of makes life complicated, but it does. You see it advertised on Auto Trader and it's up 120 grand, 115,000. All of a sudden someone's saying, well, why is that worth 40 grand more? And it does hurt the market, and those things do flow through as they go. The second thing we had was some 12C coupes being knocked out on things like collecting cars, going out at high 60s and 60 grand. Same thing applies. All of these cars were problem cars. They had issues. They had dramatic issues, some of them. Some of the cars I've seen sell on auction now, we've given estimates of 30, 40 grand of repair work on these cars with ticking engines and lunch gearboxes, but they sell and they advertise at low price. And that does give a skewed value for it. So those two models are the ones where there has been some changes. There are also two models I'm going to specifically say may be the best opportunities. But what I want to do, most people when they buy a car, they base it on what they can afford. You know, how much money do you want to put into it? So I thought I'd make up a list of what models you can get for what price to give you an idea of what to look for. And then it comes down to what you like the look of and various details. Now, what I'm going to give you is a scale of prices we're going to show here now. And these are based on good cars. These are based on cars that aren't knackered, don't have corrosion, don't have problems, have been inspected properly, and are good cars. These are the range with average mileages. Okay, an average mileage, as far as we're concerned, is anywhere between 1,000 and 4,000 miles per year would be an average for a McLaren. Obviously, the higher the mileage, you may slightly lower on price, the lower the mileage, slightly higher price. Take into account the view we've had that all these cars need to be driven as part of our warranty video that we mentioned. So these are average prices for it. So what I want to say to do is that anything under £70,000, okay, these are all first world problems to be fair, this is the McLaren video. Anything under £70,000, there will be a reason for it. I don't care what model it is, okay? It's going to be ultra high miles. So we're talking 60, 70, 80,000 miles. It's going to have problems with the car. Or there's problems with the owner. You know, if you've been arrested for kiddie porn, you probably want to sell your car quite quick. So that brings the price down. So you take those out, and the owners aren't weirdos, and the cars are good shape, with not mega miles. Anything less than £70,000, in our opinion, will be a problem waiting to happen. Okay? So basically, you're talking about 12C coupes. Under 70, ask why. Get it inspected, get it checked. And when I say inspections, get it done by someone properly. I've seen some inspections now even from McLaren dealer, they missed everything and then sent an apologetic email saying sorry for missing it all. It's quite outrageous. It's actually up on the workshop for people to see, the apology email, because it's funny to read it. But get it done properly, okay, by somebody who's going to actually give it to us. Next up, between 70 and 80,000 pounds. So there's your sweet spot for 12C coupes, okay? Between 70 and 80. Higher mileage, lower specs, down at 70,000. Lower mileage, better specs, better colours at higher 80, over 80,000 pounds. And again, these are assuming good cars, okay? Now, it's also, this is the sweet spot. I think the 12C coupe is the one that has come down too far in price and is holding down a low price for giving opportunity to buy in. They should all be north of £80,000 in my view. I've always said that. And generally a good car is around about 79, 80. So if you see them in the low 70s, there's a reason for it. So I've got one for sale, a black one. It's got quite high mileage on it, so for £70,000. Absolute bargain for somebody. It's no different to the £85,000 car with low miles. It just happens to be a different colour and a high mileage, which doesn't concern us. So £70,000, £80,000, that's your sort of market for a 12C coupe. Okay, £80,000 to £90,000. Here's where it gets interesting, because now you've got a choice of cars to look at. So you've got the 12C Spider, the 570S Coupe, and the 540C. All of these are 80 to 90,000 in terms of prices. So, for example, like this one here, just sold 86,000 for a 12C Spider, 87,000 for a 570, 83,000 for 540. That's your spread, 80 to 90,000, and it comes down to spec of the car, what you like the look of, and everything else is there. 80, 90 gives you that choice. So you have an older car with a Spider, or you can have a younger car with the Coupe, 540 and 570. Okay, and they include the GT in this as well, so it's all the sports series process. Again, there are some that be north of 90, very low miles, but good condition, very high specifications. Okay, sub 80,000 for these cars. Again, it's in the ultra high miles or not so good spec. But that just is spot for a general car, 80 and 90. Now, 90 to £100,000, that's your next spread. And then you've got the 650S Coupe, 650S Spider, the 570S Spider, and the GT. Now, GT is a weird one because it's a wide spread because there's not many out. They're very hard to value. But generally, anywhere between 95 and 115 is about right, because your cars that could be 2024 plate cars down to 2019 plate cars. So the spread's there. So I've put the GT in that 90 to 100,000 mark, assuming it's like a 19 plate car, nice mileage. We've sold a couple of 96, 97. That's down to about 91, 92 is about right. As for the 650s, so a coupe generally is about £5,000 or £6,000 less than the Spider. The reason why it's not such a big delta between the coupe and the Spider and 650 form is they didn't make many of them. When they first got out of 650, they pretty quickly went to 650S Spider. So there are a lot more Spiders than there are 650S coupes. There is a difference in price, but it's not dramatic. And a really good specification coupe may be more desirable than a lower specification, higher mileage 650S Spider. So bear that in mind. But generally speaking, a really good 650 Spider with good specification, top end of the 90 to 100, high mileage, low spec, so the lower end of the 90, but then be 91 to 100,000. That's your sort of spread there. Right, so to 100 to 130,000, quite a big jump here because there's not really much in between. You can put the GT in there as well, as I mentioned, but generally in the 100, 130,000 mark, 600 LT coupe, okay, anywhere between 120, 130, 115 for high mileage, low spec. The 600 LT coupe is hard, or 600 LT coupe and Spider are hard to really value because they're very spec specific. I've seen cars which have a £60,000 difference between specification. So it's kind of hard to make a real generic version of it. But generally, a good coupe, 120, 130, we move up in terms of Spiders. But that's your sweet spot, 120 to 130, 100 and 130. Now, here is where the 720 coupe got down to. Okay, so then you had people were looking at saying the 720 coupe for 125 or a 6LT for 125. They're different cars for a start in terms of the purpose. And I've done car comparison videos for so. But at that kind of price, the 720 coupe was an absolute steal. I mean, just you couldn't imagine a cheaper car for what it does. It's a 700 brake horsepower, finest handling and performance supercar out there for just over the same amount of money as my M3 was, for God's sake. I mean, it's just absurd. Fortunately, they're firming up a little bit now, but you still can get them around the 125, 130 mark for a higher mileage. You're probably more higher than that. But so 120 to 140,000 pounds. So we get moving up a little bit. So where the 720 coupe now sits more. Again, perfect sort of price brand. I mean, we've got one at 140, just 140 with only 9,000 miles on the clock. But we sold quite a lot at the 720 mark, around the 130 mark, which is again sweet spot for it. Around about there is the right price, the right mileage, and everything else there. Ignore all the bullshit you read about certain color logos or better cars. It's crap, okay? Even the launch edition cars, which are the worst built, have all gone through the systems and been fixed and done now. So it doesn't really matter. Go on condition, go on history, go on inspection. Right, so then we jump again. So really we're up to about 140,000. Then we skip a little bit because of valuations. We're up to about the 160 to 180 mark now. And here I've got the 720 Spider and I've got the 675 Coupe. Now, the 675 Coupe, they're 675 LTs. Obviously, they're a slightly different market.
They're very spec specific. Roof scoop, non-roof scoop can make a £20,000 difference on the coupe. So bear that in mind. Exposed carbon fiber, matte carbon fiber, P1 seats, all these things make a dramatic difference to value. So it's very hard to give you a spread for the 675, but that's roughly what you're looking at. But the 720 Spider is where it gets very interesting. So I got first-hand experience this. I tried to buy one last year. There are numerous videos about it because they got down to 150. And I looked at that and thought, this is just absurd. The 720 Spider is significantly more valuable than 150,000. There were 5 for sale at 150. They all sold very quickly. Yes, there were problems on most of them, which we've gone into various videos. But for me, I thought that was too cheap, hence trying to buy one. They're now moved up. They're now 160, 170, 180 for a decent 720 Spider, bearing in mind the year of the car. They're much younger. They tend to be sort of 20, 22, 23s. But that, again, I think is a great opportunity. The reason why is that there's no really where they can go down to anything because the 720 Coupe is holding them up at 130, 140. The Spider is a better car in terms of it's basically a coupe with a folding roof. And then they're later built lower miles. And they tend to be much higher specs. You don't get very, very low spec 720 Spiders. The coupes on the launches and all, some of those are lower specs. So I think the 720 Spider for me is a bit like a 12C coupe. That's your opportunity. In at 160, 170 would be a lovely place to be for a really good car with more history and specification, etc. Then we get £180,000 plus, which frankly you're then into the 675 Spider routine. And also the 750s, 750 coupes, even some Spiders around there, not really yet. I think it's Yacht's in the North 200. But the 750 comes into play. And I'll be honest, the 750 for me is an expensive 720. But if you're looking at that sort of price, one might argue that might be a sort of price point to look at it. Now, again, it compares to 675 Spider, different car entirely. If I had 180, 190 grand sat in the bank, and I don't, I'd buy the 675 Spider rather than the 750 Spider for that sort of number, but I'd rather have a 720 Spider at lower levels in terms of saving myself 30, 40 grand. All right? So that's your spread. Anything on the 70,000, ask yourself the question why. There will be an answer. Now, it could be a good reason. It could be the guys want to sell a car. Maybe he's worth a billionaire and didn't care. Or it could be a bad reason, and you're buying someone else's bill. And then up to 180 or £1,000, you'll look at more specific models and more newer models. Now, I've not included the Artura in this. Again, I just can't recommend it for anything. Now, it's not that they still have problems. I believe most of the problems are fixed and no longer difficult cars in terms of running, although there's still issues out there. And I've driven a few. They drive really well. But the reason I don't recommend it is 2 reasons. Number one, the hybrid system just scares me silly in terms of costs, all right? I've had hybrids. I had a hybrid van, and it went in for warranty after 2 months. They had £25,000 worth of warranty work to get it working again. Hybrids scare me because the costs seemingly are unlimited. And with a McLaren, it could be really unlimited. And the second thing is that, and it just bugs the hell out of me, and I refuse to buy the car because of it, is their tyre pressure monitoring system is built into the tyres. So it means if you want to change tyres, you have to buy them from McLaren dealers, and you have to give them £2,500 odd quid plus for a set of tyres. Yeah, I don't fundamentally agree with that. If I'm going to buy a 200 grand car, I want to put the tyres I want to put on it. You can't. So I can't recommend the Artura at all. So I don't even include that in my list of cars to buy. So if you're looking for a car, that should change. Under 70, question mark it. 70, 80, you've got 12C coupes are great for having, all the way up to 180 or grand for 720 Spiders. But that's just spread between them. So the real busy areas are the 80 to 90, 3 or 4 models to pick from, 90 to 100, 5 models to pick from. So you're anywhere between 80 and £100,000. You've got a choice of 5 or 6 McLaren models to look at. And then it comes down to what you like the look of, what you're going to use it for, and condition of the car and history. It's a crucial thing about it. It may look pretty in a showroom, but it's got to look pretty on a ramp. That's more important. All right. Hope that's useful. Any questions? Very curious about people's views this in terms of valuations and stuff. We're pretty accurate in this. I said 200 cars in 3 years. This is based on some good data. And these are actual numbers, not forecasts of things. So it's worthwhile checking if you can. But hope it's useful. Any comments, please let us know. Okay. Cheers.